Hi, and welcome to this latest Spotlight interview series. I'm delighted to be joined today by Ciara Moriarty from the Performance Studios. Hi, Ciara, how are you?
Hello, Rob. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Looking forward to hearing about your story and journey and obviously the business that you've got running at the moment. So with that in mind, could you give us a bit of background on yourself and the business you've got?
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it, and thank you for having me on. I am the founder and creative director of Performance Studios, which was established in 2020 at the peak of COVID. And it's a theatre school based in the Duke's Theatre in Lancaster, but we're actually launching a second school in Settle in the Richard Whiteley Theatre in September. We have a number of students. We have 70 students in Lancaster, and I have a full team of tutors, and I manage the studios and make sure it all runs smoothly.
Okay, fantastic. So you say you started in COVID with a performance. That seems quite the challenge. Was that design? Were you looking to start then, or was it just you decided to start then? I guess is the question.
My background is in theatre schools, and I originally managed theatre schools before I started my own business. And there was an opportunity that came to me where I was able to open my own school, and given some advice that I'm really good at it and managing other theatre schools, and they were very successful. So why not do my own? So I sort of just completely gambled because I was actually in third year of university. I knew what I was getting myself into because March lockdown had happened, and we're talking September time. So I knew how bad it was, but my dad's an optimist, and he sort of said to me, "You can do it, go for it." So yeah, I opened my own school in September 2020.
So was that online, virtual, or how did that work?
Yeah, so it started all online at first.
Right.
We had online classes, and I was doing them in my university halls. Part of my story is that I was really, really young. I was 20 years old opening my business. I'm now 23. So I always had to hide my age through the business, and I still technically do now. But I feel a lot more confident about where I am now. But when I first started, I had no business experience or background, never had a business before, and I had to hide that I was in university at the same time because I felt like I'd be judged on it. So I did all my classes in my university bedroom.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. I mean, I think it's a demonstration of like mindset, like your dad saying that just go and just do it, and not thinking or that kind of, oh well, it never work. It's because you say
I don't know whether it's because as a young female entrepreneur, I had a lot of barriers already in my way, and I felt like I wasn't the person to do this. But my dad had a lot of confidence in me, and I think as an older male who's very successful, he was like, "You must do it, just go for it." So I've now got that mindset for the future.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, well, congratulations for getting the business up and going. Probably the toughest business circumstances we've ever faced, I guess. Just everything going on around that and trying to navigate through so many hurdles would never be there, and before no one had any idea how to manage with it. So, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I don't want to go into depth of COVID because everyone's probably sick of hearing about it. But in terms of as we progressed, then I had to then paint squares on the floor, white squares on the floor, so the children could stand 2 meters apart. Because for those of you who don't know, we teach children. So these children were as young as 4. Half their life at the time was COVID. They were completely shocked and surprised at how to manage these classes and not be able to touch their friend next to them, not be able to dance holding hands, things like that are just part of childhood, or even hugs and things like that. You couldn't do that. They had to be separate.
Wow. So you're obviously enjoying what you've got. Obviously, everyone now in the studios, face to face, being able to manage it. So how's it grown over that kind of period of time? So you said you've got 70 children, is that right?
Yeah, so we started with just 14 students on that first day, and it's grown to 70 students. I also started by being a tutor myself, so I had 2 members of staff, But now we have 9 members of staff, 2 of them are managers, and I'm an area manager, going to be an area manager for the first time in September.
Right.
But taking a step out of the business is very different from being in the business. And because I love kids and I love working with them, it is really, really challenging when you have a business like this, where you just love being part of the childhood memories that you create.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. That's an interesting dynamic. So what, so is this, obviously there's a number of schools in the area, I guess, who do the same kind of thing. What do you think makes you stand out from, the other competitors that there are in and around the region?
Yeah, so I'm actually a serial watcher of competitors.
Right, okay.
I love to go and watch all the competitor shows and really analyze them, and in a positive way. I mean, in a way where I like to, how can we improve all the time? So one is that we are very personal. So we care about every individual. When I went to theatre schools when I was younger, I felt very much like I was treated like a number. And nobody really knew my name, the owners or anything. So that's really important to me, that all the children are individuals on stage. So we don't have the same people getting the main roles. You can see when you watch our shows that everybody gets a solo, everybody has a line. And the following year, it'll be a different person is the soloist for a different section, because we're proving that the tutors are very talented. And therefore, everyone in the class is talented and knows what to do and how to hold themselves on stage and is confident. And it's not just a one-off student. It's not just a gift they've got. It's actually, they've all been trained. They all can be a success. And we have individual names on uniforms to make them stand out, so they don't just wear the same thing. We also are based in theatres, as I mentioned before, in the Dukes and the Richard Whiteley Theatre, which is really, really difficult to get into, and it took a lot of negotiation, but it's important to me because children should walk in and immerse themselves within a theatre, learning about a theatre, and learning about the arts within a theatre makes complete sense to me. And being in church halls or schools, I just don't understand why in the past it's not been done before.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I can understand. Yeah, I've got kids who've been in that kind of thing, done they're at school, they're teenagers now. But I could see why the benefits of being in the actual environment that potentially the longer term people are trying to achieve, to aspire to, can only be beneficial, right? So that's a really interesting point.
Yeah. I mean, even, sorry, just to jump on that. I mean, even the spotlights in the theatre, what we find is when it comes to our end of year show, all of the kids are sort of confident and know what they're doing, and comfortable under the lighting. Whereas if they were in a school or a classroom, when it comes to the actual show day, they can tend to get stage fright. Whereas we find that every year so far, every single student has made it on stage, and that is my ultimate goal, is that nobody gets stage fright, and everybody, because that initial all the team know this, I talk about it all the time, but that initial first moment, the first time they ever take to the stage, if they don't take to the stage, you've got potential stage fright for their life. So we've got a really big job on our hands. So that initial first moment, they do their first show, they need to go on stage. So it's really important that we talk to them and they understand what it's going to look like and how it's going to work, and the terminology. I mean, things like the wings are in our theatre that we use. So we're able to say, these are the wings. And for anyone that doesn't know, it's that off-stage section where we can say, you're off stage in the wings, and now you're going to come onto stage, and this is centre stage, this is stage right, stage left. And we're able to tell them things like that, which they wouldn't know in a school. Yeah,
sure. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, I like that. That follows that, using that kind of uniqueness and focusing on those things as well, which are clearly beneficial and adds to that experience for everyone, right? Which is great, absolutely great. Cool. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. What's the business journey been like so far? Then, obviously, you talked to 3 years in. What's that journey been like for you personally?
From the beginning, looking back. Yeah, wow. Very, very different. I think. I mean, I mentioned about COVID and I mentioned about being in university, but I really didn't know even how to spell the word entrepreneur. Okay. I'd never heard of it before. I didn't know what it meant. I knew, you know, about owning a business. People spoke about that. Nobody said they were an entrepreneur. I didn't know how to make business cards. My mum taught me what Company's House was on the
Right.
first
Okay.
day, and she taught me how to make a Facebook business page.
Right.
Things as simple as that. You know, no one gives you a checklist of what should be in business,
No.
what you need. And what often I've learned, you kind of just learn on the job as you go on. Now we've got everything behind us and we're set and ready to go. But back then, when I was only 20 years old, I had my mum and dad to turn to, and nobody else, business mentor, nothing like that. Now I have business mentors that I speak to and coaches. And that's the thing. It's, you know, very different when I look back. But yeah, so now we're at a point where we're working with BMW and Mini in a sponsorship deal with our shows that we do. Wow. So I walked into the pitch to BMW a showroom in Grange River Sands, and they offered us a sponsorship deal to put on the show and support children in the local area, and they wanted to really help put on their show, which is really nice of them. So then they brought their cars along, and we were able to do a promo video with them. So that's been a journey, because they've offered a sponsorship again this year. So it's been a great relationship we've built with them. And I'm also an entrepreneur in residence at Lancaster University, where I'm a teaching fellow and I give talks and things at the university, which is full circle moment for me, because I was originally an alumni, originally from here, so I'm now an alumni. And yeah, I mean, I also go to NatWest in Manchester. I got offered on the accelerator course. They pick 80 entrepreneurs. Yeah, so I'm a completely different position now than I was then. Now we're award winning, and I've won creative industry, and I'm a finalist for Young Entrepreneur of the Year, which I'm really grateful for. It's completely different, and I'm a lot more confident where we are now than I was then. But I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
No, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It sounds, yeah, you're absolutely, the bit there that is that whole, there's nowhere to go to find out how to start running a business. There's no checklist. A lot of it is just fly by the seat of pants, almost, kind of like, well, what do I do here? What do I do there? I'll start my own businesses, a kind of, with a bit more experience in working in corporate, and then starting your own business, you've got a little bit more of an idea, but even then it's a completely different environment. It's a different, everything's, the buck stops with you, right? And it's like, you have to do everything. So it's amazing.
When you look back, it's almost laughable. When you look back at what the business was to now, I mean, it's ever changing, and I'm sure I'll laugh again when I look back at what we are now. But I mean, then I had a logo that I designed myself, and I mean, it looked like I was a DJ. It didn't look like a theatre school. And things like that. I mean, even the website is completely different. We have a brilliant website designer now. And back then I used Wix or something, something that was just free, and didn't invest into the business. And things like, I tried to get the best bargains. So the speakers that I used, and then they break, and you realize actually you need the best quality that will last you the longest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, return on investment is that. You've got to work it all through and make sure that, absolutely. Yeah, you don't keep replacing the same thing over and over again, because it's just a false economy, isn't it? So yeah, no, interesting, very interesting. Cool. So obviously you talk about you've got 9 of you working in the business now, or 9 working for you. Is that right?
Yeah, 9 working.
So when you bring those people in, and when you're looking to grow and bring other people into the business, what kind of qualities do you look for in those guys when you bring them in?
So I look for, first of all, them to be able to sing, dance, or act, be passionate in the arts, because they need to be able to teach that. Which is also very niche and very difficult to find. Talented tutors. But then on top of that, I look for communication, transparency, and honesty. I think, if your team can't talk to you about problems, then it's very, very difficult in the future. I'm really lucky that if there's any problems, they come to me and we talk about it. We have weekly meetings every week. But I'm also almost a friend to, they don't all call me a friend. I know you shouldn't be a friend in business, but in terms of our relationship, We've really built a great relationship. Yeah, and I think they have to be approachable because they're working with kids.
Yep.
As well. And I often say to them, you need to be able to build bonds. So we need to be able to build this community, this family that we have, this performance family, and be able to really understand each student. And I sometimes quiz them on, tell me some piece of news about Sarah this weekend or something. And I want them to come back with me with an answer of what they know about that child, because that shows the personal touch that they've actually listened to what they had to say that week about their news.
Cool. Interesting you say it's lucky that that they're honest and stuff with you. Do you not think that's actually a reflection of the fact that you're fostering that environment, and the things that you're doing actually allow people to feel that they can? So I don't think people do that luckily. I think they do that because they feel they're in a good environment.
I think you're right. I think I find it difficult to say
I think we all do, but no.
Yeah, but yes, I think you're right. I think that I've worked really hard to have the relationship I do have with them, and I think even things as simple as knowing stuff about your employees in general. If they've told you something about the week before they had their sister's wedding, it's really important to quiz them on that and ask them and care about their lives as well. And sometimes I think, they know that I'll treat them well. And if they're feeling, down that day, I do just say, take it off, I'll cover you, just go home, that's fine, take a moment. And sometimes people just care so much about business and their vision and what they created, that you kind of forget everybody else around it. But without the people in your business, the business is nothing. I mean, people are everything with business at the moment. It's what people always talk about. And I think, I would be nowhere without the team that I do have. I can't scale without more team members and everyone feeling like part of the team and being able to come to me and feeling happy. So I need to make sure that the people in the business are happy.
100%. I mean, you nailed it on the head there. It's ultimately, like I say, the business is people, it's systems. Systems can run the business and the people run the systems, but ultimately, it was interesting. You also talked about, when you were saying about what you look like, the values that you look for in people as well. I think it's, I think the best businesses are when you recruit on values and behavior, and because you can try. I mean, obviously, with your industry, obviously, you do need the skill set as well to a certain extent, but obviously, the values and the way that people conduct themselves is important in every aspect of business. And the more they align with you, clearly the more productive that everyone is, because everyone's getting on and working for the same goals in the same way, right?
Yeah, but I also think that with the team that I have, because I now have a bigger team, I've realized that actually, do we need people that bounce off each other and are different and have different personalities within the team, or do you want everybody to be the same within the team and there is a perfect candidate that you're looking for? I think it's a difficult question to answer, but I actually find that I think we work best when people are quick thinkers and they're on their feet and they can adapt. Because often we're in positions like with shows where decisions need to be made quickly because they're on stage now, and I need people who can just act and understand that it needs to happen. And I think we're getting there, and people are a lot stronger than they used to be, and we've got a really strong team now. It's really looking good for the future.
Great. So nice segue into the next question. So what does the future look like? And what do you see as the main challenges moving forward?
This one's a big question. I think going forward, I'm more coming out of the business now than I used to be. So I need to try and get building those bonds that I spoke about earlier, and the connection with the kids and the community. I need to try and create that, even though I'm not there. Okay. So it's more about when you're talking about working on the business rather than in the business, and how I do that as I'm scaling. Which I think I need the team members, and luckily I do a lot of training days, and I make sure that they're all prepped, and that will help going forward. I need them to take away from that what they need to do. They need to almost become mini me's elsewhere. And that's difficult, because how do you put into words what you are and what you need them to do? Sometimes there's things I often find we would think as general knowledge, or I would think as general knowledge, and it might not be, because I've not actually communicated that to the team. And sometimes it can be almost like when I'm annoyed at a situation or, you know, frustrated at why that didn't happen.
Right.
I think actually that's a reflection of me, because I should have been the one to tell the team, and it's to do with the manager. It's the problem of the manager, not the problem of the person who hasn't done it. Because I didn't communicate that, so of course they wouldn't know to do it. So I think I learn a lot from experiences like that, which I need them now going forward to be able to make those decisions without me.
Yep.
And we're getting there, but it's like I also need to let go, because I think at the moment I'm very much micromanaging every little thing, because it's like my vision, and therefore it's all being created and it's my baby, and I'm just handing it over, and that's really is difficult. That's I'm emotionally attached to that in general. Yeah.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think anyone who starts their own business, especially in the circumstance you have, and you know, it's a tough challenge to be like, I need to take that little bit of a step back, and I need to let people develop, and it's that kind of letting people, sometimes they have to make mistakes, but you know, as long as they learn from those kind of things if it goes wrong. But the worst thing you can do is take no action at all, right? So it's about building that environment so that people feel comfortable to be able to make decisions, and then, you know, working with them to find the right solution if that wasn't quite the right solution in that circumstance. So what is the kind of future? What, you know, you've obviously got this second school opening in Settle. Is there plans to open more longer term, or how you?
Yeah, so eventually the plan is to open lots of schools across the UK, and have multiple schools running, which as we grow will need to become more managers, more area managers, and that's sort of more team members, more people, as mentioned before.
Sure.
But the main thing for me is being in the theatres, and that's really difficult. And I've learned actually that even the one with, for example, Settle, it took me about 9 or 10 months.
Right.
In there, so it's really is like takes almost a year for me to get in, so it is difficult. So anyway, yeah, so I'm looking to progress to more locations, and have, you know, even the sponsorship deals and things that we've done before, how we can improve, how we can progress, how we can get bigger, even the amount of students we have within schools and how many classes we can take on, because Lancaster was originally only 1 class in the beginning, and now we've got 6 classes. So having that availability in each theatre to be able to take on so many classes in the future.
Yeah, sure.
But we were able to support a lot of theatre schools in COVID. I mean, a lot of theatres, in COVID.
Yeah. So what's the challenge in getting it? Is it with the theatres? Is it just availability of time and space to allow you to do stuff, or is it other challenges?
I think it's because no one's ever done it before. So a lot of theatres will say, oh, we need to really consider this, you know, how do we make it feasible alongside our shows at the weekends?
Yeah.
But we're quite flexible, and I'm happy to work with them, but I think they're just not used to it, a business coming to them.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. But yeah, no, you obviously demonstrate you can negotiate and get that, you know, work with them. So yeah, and best of luck for when you open in September with the
Thanks,
as well.
Yeah, I love negotiations. It's one of my favorite things.
Right. Good. Well, as a business owner, that's obviously absolutely a good thing to be in love with, because it's it's part and parcel of the day to day, isn't it? When you're trying to negotiate on many things, many fronts. So
yeah, definitely.
So the question is like, what's the best advice you would give to a young person starting a business? Now, you are a young person, so you know, but if someone, you know, what would be your best bit of advice from what you've learned so far in your 3 years in business?
Oh, difficult. I feel like not everybody knows what they're doing. And I think when I first started, I thought it was because of my age and because of how young I was that the reason I was struggling in areas. And actually, I met a lot of business owners who went, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. And some days, you know, you're learning new things that you've never experienced and have to adapt. And you have to learn on the job, and you've not experienced certain things before that come your way, which I completely understand now. But I had a real point to prove as well. Because in the theatre industry in general, A lot of people think you can't make money from it, and I had a lot of comments about that, and that I wouldn't be able to make a living out of it. But I set up the business in my 3rd year, so that when I came out of university, I had a salary. So I was able to completely prove everybody wrong in that instance. And I think that doing what you love, you should just do what you love. That's like my kind of phrase. Like, I'm very much like, do what you're passionate about, and the money will follow if you're really passionate about it. If you really care and you want to make it work and you want to make a living out of it, it can happen. I mean, when I was sat in university in a lecture, I went into an entrepreneurship lecture, and the lecturer asked, so what courses is everyone from, and named theatre, and I put my hand up, the only hand up in the room, and he said, I've never had that before. No one's ever been from both theatre and business and brought it together. So I think it just shows that people just don't realize that you can actually make a business out of anything. And I think, if you've got an idea, go for it, no matter about money. It should never be about money. I think, it is when the business, people love to talk about money when you're making business, and I understand it's really important. And I do love, talking about money now, and negotiation, and doing all of the different meetings regarding financial stability, but it shouldn't be why you're doing it.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think, if you go through, the most successful businesses have all been built on people that are passionate about what they're doing and passionate about what they're trying to achieve. And the why is much more important than the how and the when. Do you know what I mean? It's just that why do you want to do it? What are you trying to do? So it's a really, really great point that following your heart sometimes is the answer to a lot of the challenges, and entrepreneurs who do that normally tend to fare pretty well. So some great advice. Great advice. Now, excuse me. So finally, it's like, what's inspiring at the moment? What inspires you?
It's okay. I think, mainly it's the kids. I mean, it's why I do it. But I guess, I think for me, the age thing, bringing it back in, it's always been a huge barrier for me. And even sometimes I feel like I've got more resilience, and I'm more like proving a point at the moment of like, and I think that's what inspires me to push forward. I think sometimes I'll be in instances where, for example, in the past, I've been in meetings where I have been questioned, and somebody has said to me, what makes you think you can run a business? Why do you think you would be able to set up this other school? Not the school that I'm opening now, by the way, but for another school I'm looking into, I have been asked that. And I've come back with, I already do run a business, and it's a very successful business, and it's an award-winning business. But in the moment, it's really, really difficult to actually come back with all these responses, because of course you have these responses afterwards, and you think, I could have said this, I could have said this. And I think, for that point on, going back to the point for the young person, I think that it's really, really difficult in the moment to actually defend yourself. But I think not letting the age thing be an issue. But in terms of inspiring me, I guess, as I mentioned, the kids, but also in terms of my dad and mum. I think my mum always loved business, and we used to drive past shop windows. She used to say we could do an ice cream shop there, we could call it Moriarty's, and she had all these great ideas, but she'd never actually take the risk and never actually execute them. And I think that's really interesting, because I didn't realize, is entrepreneurship in your bones, and is the risk-taking part, that's inspiring for me in a sense. That's really exciting, and I'm inspired by the idea of, sort of taking the plunge sometimes. And then I have my dad that I've always looked up to. He works on the news, so I watch him all the time, and he's been someone that I idolize, and he's come from nothing to something really successful. And I've just watched him grow and grow and grow through his career. And I think to be somebody where you've had nothing to where it's just, I'm at an absolute awe. Like, I think that I'm really impressed by my dad, and I would love to sort of scale like he has, if that's even possible.
Fantastic. So I think it's great to hear those stories. And I think, let's be frank, I think you'll be an inspiration to a lot of people, young people as well, to show that, you know, determination and, you know, taking some risk is what, you know, is what life's about. I think your point about the genetics, I think it's just like, obviously, when you look at your parents and you see what they're doing, and yeah, they just inspire you in that way, because they demonstrate that anything is possible with the right kind of mindset and go out and get whatever you want to achieve in life. You know, clearly, then you can't help not be moved by that, right? So it's fantastic to hear those stories and how that's inspired you to achieve what you've done so far in such a short period of time, right? So really, really impressive, really impressive. So finally, just any other detail or, you know, information you wanted to share with us on the podcast now in relation to the business? Obviously, you mentioned the Settle opening coming soon. So anything else you wanted to bring up on that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a open weekend in September and a launch weekend in Settle in September, and Lancaster's the open weekend in September. Okay. So they were both free. Anyone can come along, any families, bring kids along and let the kids see for themselves what it's like. I think it's really important that the kids enjoy it. So I tend to not take any like payment details, because I want the main thing for me is for the kids to love it.
Yeah, sure.
We just recently had a show and I did everything in my power to make sure everyone was on stage, and there was a little boy who cried his eyes out before, was so nervous. Right. And I had to drop everything. I was attached to the wall to a headset, and I said, somebody else take it. I need to go and check on this little boy. And I ran and thank God he made it on stage. But so that for me is so important. So come along and see what you think of the studios, meet the team, meet the kids, meet the other students, and yeah, just get in touch. I think you can email info@performancestudios.co.uk. We have a website, performancestudios.co.uk, and you can email me directly at director@performancestudios.co.uk as well.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, thank you. We'll put all that detail in when we post the video in a few days' time. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been really interesting, very inspiring to hear your story so far, and I wish you all the best in the future for everything you're trying to achieve. And yeah, thanks, and speak to you soon.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.